Okay, so I love South Park. And with season 27, it seems like Matt and Trey are back at their peak of just pissing people off. So what better of a time to go back in time and look at all of the controversies that South Park has had throughout its entire history of its runtime. Okay, so before South Park even had time to breathe, parents across America were already losing their goddamn mind. This was 1997. Bill Clinton was still vibing. AOL chat rooms were still the place to cyber around. And Comedy Central decided to unleash 4 poorly drawn kids from Colorado onto television. And from basically the very first episode, there was instant moral panic. Why? Because kids were watching it. That's it. That's literally the entire scandal. Kids just found the cartoon funny. And apparently, if you're a suburban mom in the 90s, the worst thing in the world is hearing your child yell, "Respect my authority!" in a Cartman voice. Parents started foaming at the mouth like rabid dogs. They didn't care that shows like Beavis and Butthead had already existed. They didn't care about MTV already melting brains with Spring Break uncensored. Nope. The thing that broke them was a fat kid yelling about aliens probing his butt. Which, you know, out of context is kind of crazy. News anchors at the time described South Park as a plague infecting America's youth. Teachers complained students were quoting it nonstop. Politicians complained it was toxic to young minds. And most hilariously, church groups started full-on campaigns to just get it canceled. Like, I can just imagine a preacher just screaming out, you know, this is satanic television. Satan himself is inside of this show. You know what I mean? Like chill out, dog. It's a cartoon. It's a cartoon, man. It's not that serious. But the backlash, it didn't stop. By season 2, schools were sending letters home banning South Park t-shirts. Imagine that. You're just a 12-year-old, you know, you just spent your $15 that you made from your allowance on a Cartman shirt, and then your teacher just says, nah, man, that's the equivalent of a war crime. You can't wear that here. No, sorry. This only made kids want it more. South Park became contraband. Like Pokemon, but with more anal probes. Jesus Christ, what am I writing? Kids would sneak VHS recordings around like they were drug deals. And the irony, every single time parents tried to cancel this show, it just grew in ratings every single time. It was like rocket fuel, because nothing sells more than moral outrage. Okay, so parents were already pissed about the show existing, but then South Park did what South Park does best. It doubled down. They said, oh, you don't like cussing? You don't like offensive jokes? Cool. Let's just dedicate entire episodes to saying the things that you hate. Season 5 dropped an episode called It Hits the Fan. And the entire joke of the episode is that they just said the word shit 162 times throughout the episode. That's it. The whole episode is about the word shit. A town loses their mind because people are saying shit nonstop. And eventually people start dying because of some medieval curse or something. In America lost its collective mind. News outlets could not stop talking about it. Parents demanded boycotts. In South Park, they were laughing their asses off because they knew exactly what they were doing. Comedy Central even aired it uncensored at 10 p.m., basically giving kids like a free pass to just go to lunch the next day and just scream out shit, which is what's up. But that was just the foreplay. Pause. What am I writing? What was going through my head? The real controversy started whenever South Park went after race. Enter with apologies to Jesse Jackson. Stan's dad, Randy, is on a Wheel of Fortune episode, and he gets to puzzle people who annoy you. And he gets these letters, I'll put a picture up, and he says the exact word that you think he said whenever you heard that this was about race. Yeah, he said the word. The fallout, even Jesse Jackson himself got involved. Civil rights groups condemned the episode. News pundits called it the lowest point in television history. And South Park's response was basically, yeah, that's the entire point. Because in the episode, everyone is groveling to Jesse Jackson, treating him kind of like the Pope of Black America, begging forgiveness for racial sins. And the writers, they were making fun of the idea of performative apologies. You know, kind of like what you see on YouTube, basically, anytime somebody gets canceled. Those type of apologies. They were making fun of that. Kind of pointing out how society treats racism like a PR problem and not like an actual issue. But the only thing that people remember is Randy Marsh saying the hard R on Wheel of Fortune like he was auditioning for the Klan. So, you know, I can't really blame him for being upset. Especially in the fact, if I was black and I saw that, I probably wouldn't watch the rest of the episode. But of course, this wasn't the first time South Park leaned into racial, just stuff. Cartman had already done entire arcs about hating Jewish people, complete with him singing songs like I'm in the Ghetto, which was about Kyle, who's also ginger, and he hates gingers too. Maybe he just bases what he hates off Kyle. I've never thought about it like that. Never thought about it. Trey and Matt were equal opportunity offenders. Black jokes, Mexican jokes, Asian jokes, white jokes, Jew jokes. It didn't matter what it was. They were going to make jokes about you. And every single time, watchdog groups came out with pitchforks. Think pieces in newspapers, angry parents associations, cable watchdogs calling Comedy Central irresponsible, which is hilarious because by this point, Comedy Central had fully leaned into it. They wanted the outrage. They marketed South Park as the show too offensive for your mom. And the moms, they ate the bait every single week. Okay, so if you thought Randy saying the hard R was going to be the peak of the controversy, that was really just an appetizer. The real 5-course chaos meal is whenever South Park decided to piss off Scientology. The episode was called Trapped in the Closet, and the title alone is already a perfect 2005 time capsule by itself. You had Tom Cruise being rumored as gay, you had R. Kelly's insane Trapped in the Closet music video saga, and South Park said, let's smash those together, sprinkle some cult stuff on top, and watch the lawsuits rain down. So here's the setup. Stan takes a personality test, gets told he's depressed, bars, and suddenly the Church of Scientology declares that he's the reincarnation of L. Ron Hubbard. Hubbard. Fuck that guy. I don't give a shit. Fuck him. Yep. A 10-year-old in a beanie becomes the messiah of Scientology. Meanwhile, Tom Cruise shows up to meet him. Stan says Cruise is not a good actor. And Cruise immediately locks himself in Stan's closet. And just when you think it can't get more unhinged, they bring in R. Kelly, who sings his way through the situation. Narrating his actual Trapped in the Closet style, it is chef's kiss levels of parody. But the real controversy, South Park didn't just clown the celebrities. They went straight after Scientology's sacred doctrine. They literally animated the actual Xenu story, which is nuts. They didn't change it. They didn't parody it. They just straight up explained Scientology space opera beliefs word for word, while plastering giant text on screen saying this is actually what Scientologists believe, which, by the way, this is actually what Scientologists believe. The church tried to pressure Comedy Central to pull the episode. They allegedly used their Hollywood influence to do so. Rumors swirled that Tom Cruise himself was going to boycott Mission Impossible 3 publicity if the episode re-aired, which is absolutely insane. That just shows that what they're saying is true, dog. That just shows that. Why are you getting so mad? It's a joke. It's supposed to be fun. You're supposed to laugh. And did Comedy Central cave? Oh, you bet your ass they did. Trapped in the Closet just mysteriously vanished. And then the fallout went nuclear whenever Chef, aka Isaac Hayes, quit the show. Hayes was a Scientologist, and he said the show was being offensive to his religion. Which, I mean, I guess, but in my opinion, you didn't have an issue whenever, for one, they said the fucking hard R. Trey and Matt obviously clapped back at Hayes for, kind of being a hypocrite for saying that, you didn't have a problem making fun of Mexican, Jews, Christians, Muslims. You didn't have a problem making fun of these people. But when it was his own faith, obviously it was too far. And the internet being the internet, people roasted Hayes for his hypocrisy. Some even say the church pressured him into quitting, which I personally do believe. Either way, Chef was gone. And how did South Park respond? Oh, just by killing him off. They killed him off in season 10 in the most brutal way possible. Made Chef brainwashed into a pedo, had him fall off a bridge, get impaled, set on fire, mauled by a mountain lion, and then torn apart by a bear. Yeah, subtlety was not a thing. Flashback to 2006. The Danish newspaper Jyllands-Posten put that shit up on screen. Goddamn Danes. Fucking too complicated for my American fucking brain. I'm stupid, man. Okay, but they published cartoons depicting the Prophet Muhammad. Cue instant world outrage, riots, death threats, the whole nine. And in the middle of this absolute chaos, Trey and Matt say, oh, let's just drop a two-parter. Cartoon Wars Part 1 and Part 2. The plot, the whole town freaks out because they're about to air Muhammad Uncensored. Kyle Cartman and the gang try to stop it. Al-Qaeda literally shows up with a terrorist threat. I mean, it's just absolute chaos, just like everything else. Here's the catch. Inside the story, Muhammad was shown uncensored. Just a dude chilling in a bear suit. Totally harmless, no mockery, no insults. Literally the most neutral depiction you could imagine. But in real life, Comedy Central censored the hell out of it. Instead of showing Muhammad, they slapped up a title card. Comedy Central has refused to broadcast an image of Muhammad. And Trey and Matt, they were pissed. Their entire message was either everything's okay to joke about or nothing is. You can't show Jesus pooping on people but then just censor Muhammad just being a regular dude. That's absolute hypocrisy. And what happened? Revolution Muslim, a fringe extremist group, posted death threats against Trey and Matt. Like, not subtle at all. They literally said, you might end up like Theo Van Gogh, referencing the Dutch filmmaker murdered by extremists in 2004. They even posted Trey and Matt's addresses, which, by the way, most celebrities' addresses, also even your address, 90% of the time, if you didn't know this, most addresses are public knowledge anyways. It's not hard to find them. So if you want to make it harder, I'm not sponsored by anybody, but there are ways. If you're on YouTube, you know the fucking ways. It's worth the money to go spend the money to get that shit, I promise. If you're scared about getting doxxed or anything like that, it's worth it. But like I said, I'm not sponsored. I have fucking 40 subscribers. Comedy Central completely freaked out. They censored everything. Even the word what the fuck? Why did it do that? Fuck. Anyways, even his name was bleeped every single time they said it. Entire speeches, including Kyle's heartfelt I learned something today speech, was just an entire bleep. Fans lost their collective minds. Forums exploded. Bootlegs of uncensored scripts leaked, which I'm pretty sure was just the South Park team themselves doing that because they were pissed. People were literally torrenting episodes just to find out what Comedy Central was hiding. And here's the kicker. Censoring the episodes like they did arguably made them more famous than they would have ever been if they had just aired them normally. South Park turned into sort of like a forbidden fruit. And Trey and Matt, they stood by their guns. Their stance was pretty simple. We're not scared of offending Muslims. And they were also pissed because Comedy Central pretended it was about respect instead of admitting that they were just scared to be bombed. And honestly, that's peak South Park. They do not care about pissing you off. That's what makes the show good. That's what makes the show the show. South Park is at its best whenever people are mad. And by the way, still to this day, those episodes are missing from HBO Max. Missing from streaming. Missing from official reruns. It's like Comedy Central buried them in a vault. Indiana Jones style. But the internet, it never forgets. Bootlegs are everywhere, and fans treat 200 and 201 like the absolute holy grail of South Park controversies. Alright, time to talk about one of the stupidest but deadliest controversies South Park has ever unleashed. I'm talking about the Ginger Kid episode. Season 9, episode 11. Cartman gives a class presentation where he claims ginger kids, pale skins, freckles, red hair are a disease. He calls them disgusting, soulless, and even subhuman. It's honestly just classic Cartman, but here's the twist. The episode actually flips it. Cartman himself gets pranked and wakes up looking like a ginger. And he suddenly just becomes Hitler of the gingers. He rallies an army of gingers and just declares war on everybody else. On the surface, a dark parody of racism and prejudice. It's totally on brand for South Park. But in real life, oh boy. The phrase gingers have no souls went viral. Kids started screaming it at their redheaded classmates. Bullying skyrocketed. Kick a Ginger Day became a thing on Facebook. And yes, actual ginger kids got assaulted at schools around the world. They got so bad that schools in the US and Canada literally had to ban Kick a Ginger Day. Which, what? This was because police had started investigating assaults. Like, imagine being suspended from middle school because Cartman told you that gingers have no souls. Imagine basing what you believe around Cartman, though. It's not the person you should be basing. If you're basing anything off South Park, don't base it off Cartman. Cartman's objectively evil. But here's the wildest part. It didn't stop there. In 2010, a Canadian teenager made a video called Gingers Do Have Souls, where he screamed into the camera defending redheads. That kid's name? Cooper Cav. In that video, one of the first viral YouTube meltdowns ever. All because of South Park. Now, I think he was probably acting, but Trey and Matt basically created a meme-fueled hate movement without even meaning to. They were trying to parody racism, but kids just kind of used it as an excuse to bully their ginger friends. And when asked about it, Trey and Matt just shrugged it off like, we don't make the rules. You know what I mean? We're not these kids' parents. Which, they're not wrong. Alright, we gotta talk about the season 9 finale, Bloody Mary. And if you think that's subtle, it's really not. The plot is that a statue of the Virgin Mary starts bleeding. At first, it looks like it's bleeding from the butt. Yeah, the butt. Word spreads and people declare it a miracle. The Pope himself even shows up to investigate. And then, plot twist, turns out it's actually vaginal blood from her period. That's right, South Park turned the Virgin Mary into a menstruating fountain of Christian trauma. The Catholic League lost their minds. Like, full meltdown mode. They demanded Comedy Central pull the episode permanently. They called it blasphemy. They called it obscene. And they even called it an attack on faith. Meanwhile, South Park fans, they were just dying laughing. But it didn't stop at angry letters. New Zealand's Catholic Bishops' Conference literally petitioned to get the episode banned. Other Christian groups joined in. Formal complaints went to Viacom. At one point, Comedy Central had to pull the episode from air entirely in some regions. And here's the kicker. Matt and Trey, they just didn't even try to defend it. They were like, yeah, we knew Catholics would hate this. That was the entire point. The controversy snowballed. It wasn't just edgy jokes. It was dunking on a sacred religious icon. And what is probably the most graphic way possible. And honestly, Trey and Matt's message wasn't even complicated. It was literally just to stop worshiping fake miracles. Stop giving power to dumb superstitions. And not in the way of like Christianity, which they could have meant Christianity, but I don't take it that way. I mean, I'm personally not really religious. But, I mean, I don't think they were just straight up saying. But they delivered the message by spraying blood all over the Pope's face. It was menstrual blood. Dude, Jesus Christ, that shit's so nasty, bro. So nasty. Okay, so this one hit people in the gut. Literally 7 weeks. 7 weeks after the beloved wildlife icon Steve Irwin had passed away from getting stung by a stingray, South Park decided, yeah, let's put him in hell with a stingray still sticking halfway out of his chest. I love Steve Irwin, but that's such a crazy thing out of context. I mean, I don't really think there is much context to that, but just saying that's not a word. That's not words that I ever expected to come out of my mouth. The episode was Hell on Earth 2006. Basically, Satan throws a huge Halloween party, tells Irwin, dude, not cool, you gotta leave. And Irwin says, what? I'm really Steve Irwin. Like, that's it. Fans split instantly. Some laughed. It was just classic South Park. Nothing is really sacred. Nothing's off limits. Which, to be fair, they have said. And the joke itself was funny because they themselves were basically like, whoa, way too soon with how Satan reacted. So they knew how people were going to react. They knew it on purpose. And others were absolutely outraged. And it probably didn't help that Steve Irwin is basically universally loved. Like, I've never met anybody personally that doesn't like Steve Irwin. It's like hating Bob Ross. Who hates Bob Ross? You know what I mean? Like, I don't even really know anything about Bob Ross, but I wouldn't say I hate him. They called it grossly insensitive, classless, and pure shock value. And here's the thing. Steve Irwin wasn't just some random celebrity. He was the crocodile hunter, man. Kids grew up watching him. He was wholesome. He was beloved worldwide. And his death was very tragic and very raw. So making the joke 7 weeks after, you're bound to get some type of kickback for it. And also to see him parodied with the stingray wound still there is kind of like, you know, some people just felt like Matt and Trey crossed a line that they shouldn't have crossed. Even his widow, Terry Irwin, was scared that her kids were going to end up seeing it one day. Which, yeah, imagine being Brandy or Robert Irwin and then you see that. But, of course, Matt and Trey never apologized. They've always said if it's funny, then it's funny. Which, I personally agree. If something is funny, then it's just funny. Their whole philosophy, like I've said before, is that either everything's okay to joke about or nothing is, and there's no in between. And that means to them, Steve Irwin's stingray death gets turned into a gag. I could not say that. That is a tongue twister. All right, buckle in, because South Park has managed to do something that basically no other show has managed to do. They got banned from an entire country. Yep, that's right. South Park got banned from China. Season 23 episode Banned in China, B-A-N-D, not B-A-N-N-E-D, sees Randy Marsh get arrested in China for trying to sell weed. Meanwhile, the boys form a metal band, but their manager keeps forcing them to rewrite their songs to be more China-friendly. Cue heavy-handed metaphor about Hollywood bowing down to the hand of China. And then they go nuclear. They just straight up roast Winnie the Pooh. See, Chinese authorities had already banned imagery of Winnie the Pooh because people online joked Xi Jinping, I think I pronounced that right. I swear I'm not trying to be offensive. Looks like him. South Park was like, cool, let's just make that worse. They even included a scene where Mickey Mouse himself personally helps censor stuff so that it can be okay in China. This was too much. China immediately scrubbed South Park from the internet. Like, completely. Episodes gone. Mentions of South Park gone. Clips wiped. It was like the show never even existed in China. And then the cherry on top, Trey and Matt released a fake apology, and it was glorious. They wrote, "We too love money more than freedom and democracy. Z doesn't look like Winnie the Pooh at all. Long live the great Communist Party of China. May this autumn sorghum harvest be bountiful. We good now, China?" That was there. That was their apology. Holy shit. But South Park is still banned to this day in China. And this wasn't just a meme level ban. This was full on censorship from the Chinese government. Foreign companies have literally altered movies, video games, and fashion campaigns just to stay within China's like regulations. But Trey and Matt, they basically looked Z in the eyes and said, "Suck my balls," which is just, that's their coin saying at this point. You know what I mean? And finally, we hit the modern controversies. Okay, so I'm not sure if I mentioned this, but back in season 10, South Park made fun of Al Gore and climate change. That's where the whole man-bear-pig thing came from. It was supposed to be a joke that climate change did not exist, which obviously they were fucking wrong. They were wrong. Climate change is 100% a thing. If you don't believe it, you're an idiot. Who's telling you that is not a thing? Who's telling you these things? Who? Motherfuckers be stupid. So, from 2010, we fast forward to 2018. Climate disasters everywhere. Ice caps melting, wildfires in California. And South Park, they did a two-parter called Time to Get Cereal and Nobody Gets Cereal, where they actually apologized. No, seriously. The whole episode is literally just Al Gore being proven right. He's vindicated. He was right all along. And the kids have to admit that they didn't listen, and now the consequences are here. But not too long after that, South Park dove face first into Donald Trump. Pause. What am I writing on this fucking page, man? Did I write this? From season 19 onward, they started satirizing Mr. Garrison as Donald Trump. And at first, it was hilarious. Garrison becomes president, builds a wall, screams nonsense. Everyone just laughs and says it's classic South Park. But then the real Trump presidency outpaced the parody. Trey and Matt literally said, "We can't keep up. Reality may be crazier than anything we can actually write ourselves." Some fans loved it. South Park dunking on Trump supporters, anti-immigration policies, and the general chaos of his administration. But others, especially right-wing people who were, even if they were fans of the show, they just turned. Accusations flew. South Park went woke. South Park used to mock everyone. Now they just hate Trump. They lost their edge. Meanwhile, the left claimed that they just didn't go hard enough. That mocking Trump through Garrison was too soft. That satire wasn't enough in the face of actual fascism. So South Park pissed off both sides, which was probably the point of it, to be honest with you. And also, just to bring this up, they also just recently, like I said at the beginning of the video in the intro, with season 27, they're going in on Trump now. Like, absolutely in on Trump. Right now, Satan's pregnant with Trump's son. Or daughter, or kid, just their kid. I don't know the difference. Well, I know the difference between that, but you know what I mean. But yeah, it's insane. Not to mention the fact that they're using the same voice for Saddam. I'm pretty sure it was Saddam Hussein's voice. Was that who dated Satan in like the movies and shit? But whoever dated Satan before, I'm pretty sure it was Saddam. They're using the same voice, which makes it even funnier. Because is it just Saddam? Like, is it supposed to be Trump, or is it like Saddam playing Trump? I don't know, but I love the new season. And that's at least a majority of South Park, if not all of their controversies. So if you did enjoy, make sure to smash the like button, subscribe. Let me know if I missed anything down below. Let me know what your favorite one is, or name your favorite South Park episode. And yeah, new videos every week. Peace.